Hello, mathematicians. Today we are going to look at lesson 6.8, where we are going to be interpreting remainders. Now, what does that mean to interpret something or to interpret a remainder? Well, we want to see the best way to utilize that remainder when we have those in our problems. Things that are left over, there are a couple things that we can do. It's really important today that we think about the real world application when solving these problems. I'll talk a little bit more about this as we kind of look at some examples, and then you'll use your math journal to practice and solve some more problems. So we're going to be utilizing, I'm going to be using the partial quotients method, but or you can use your long division method, but for purposes of today, we're going to use the partial quotients method. We're going to take a look at some of these word problems and see what makes sense as to what we should do to a remainder. There's a couple of things. We could ignore it. We can record it as a fraction, and we can round it up. So let's take a look. 14 friends are going, so you're going to think about finding the error in this problem. 14 friends are going on a rafting trip. 4 people can fit on each raft. How many rafts will they need? So I want to picture myself, I'm going on a trip with my friends and I'm using rafts and I want to make sure that we have enough. So let's take a look. If we do divide 14 divided by 4. Well, I want to think about how many times does 4 go into 14 without going over? And we know that we have 3. So 4 times 3 gets me 12. And when I subtract, I get my remainder of 2. So if you notice here, the answer is 3 rafts, which we did get 3, but we did have a remainder. Well, that remainder is representing how many rafts we will need. Okay, and the people that will be left over without a spot on the raft. So if we don't interpret the remainder correctly, what's going to happen to our people? Here's a little funny image of there's not going to be enough rafts. So what we would need to do is, instead of having 3 rafts, we would need to round this up to have 4 rafts so that we can fit those 2 extra people into a raft, and we don't leave them behind or they don't fall in the water. So let's take a look at another example of what we could do. And this was an example of how we rounded our answer up, which is one way that we can do that. Another way that we can interpret the remainder is to think about reporting it as a fraction. So Chloe has 35 fruit bars. She and her 3 siblings agreed to share the bars. So we need to think about, we've got 35 fruit bars, but we have she and her 3 siblings. So we need to make sure that we have not just 3, but 4 people sharing bars. How many fruit bars will each person get? So if I think about my division equation, I'm going to have my 35 and I'm going to divide it by 4, and I'm going to put B for bars as my equation. What should we do with the leftover bars? So let's just take a look at how we would solve this using our method here. All right, we want to think about how many times does 4 go into 35 without going over? I would do 4 times 8, and that would get me 32. And when I subtract, I would have 3. I know that my remainder is less than my divisor, so I am done. So my answer would be 8 remainder 3. I'm going to show you what we're going to do to write this as a fraction. And here's a nice picture that you could see as to what we could do with our leftover bars, okay? Because they're bars, we can split them up into pieces. Think about that's something that you could break up and split among people. So that might be a good way or a good opportunity for you to know that you're going to use fractions, okay? Things that you wouldn't be able to split up, for instance, would be if you're like sharing seats or chairs. Well, you can't split up a chair. All right, so that would be an opportunity where you would not use a fraction. All right. So what you would need to do is with your remainder, you're going to take your remainder, which is 3, and you're going to put it over your divisor, okay, to make it 3/4. Okay, and so this is a little picture too to help you visualize this problem. So our answer would be 8 remainder 3/4. Let's take a look at what we would do to ignore the remainder. What kind of problem would that be? So Salam has $18 to buy notebooks that cost $4 each. How many notebooks can she buy? Okay, so I have 18 and she's $18 and each of them cost $4. So if I was going to solve this, and we're going to write our equation as 18 divided by 4 equals n for notebooks. And we're going to think about how many times does 4 go into 18 without going over. Okay, so I have 4. So 4 times 4 gets me 16. And when I subtract, I have a remainder of 2. I know this is less than my divisor. So I have 4 remainder 2. Well, because we're talking about dollars, I know that she cannot buy any more notebooks because she doesn't have enough money. This is an opportunity for us to ignore the remainder. Yeah, she's going to have some change back, but she doesn't have enough to buy it. So our answer is just she's only able to buy 4 notebooks. Okay. All right. Last one kind of ties into our first problem we did, where we might need to round our answer to the next whole number. Let's just take one more opportunity to practice this, and then you will see the journal page that you will be doing. So interpreting the remainder, so it says Madeline is making a photo book. She has 29 photos. Can she fit 6 photos on each page of this, or she can fit 6 photos on each page of this book? How many pages must she use to hold all 29 photos? So I'm picturing, here's my page, and I can fit 6 pictures per page. So I would want to see how many pages in this book I might need. So I've got 12. Okay. I've got 18. I still need to get to 29. I've got 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. How many pages must she use to hold all of the photos? Okay, so here's our division equation. We would do 29 divided by 6 equals P for photos. So you can use a picture, or you can certainly use one of your methods. So we did notice, and let's see if the picture matches what we get. How many 6s fit into 29 without going over? 4. 6 times 4 gets me 24. When I subtract, I have 5. So my answer is 4 remainder 5, which is exactly what my picture represents here. I've got 4 6s here and then 1 5 left over. Now, how would I need to record this answer? Well, I can't just leave off these 5 photos because I need to hold all 29. So what I would need to do is round my answer up. So my next whole number would be, I need 5 pages, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages. So my answer would be 5 pages because I needed to round up my remainder to hold all of my photos. All right. So in your math journal, you will be completing some examples of this problem, and you need to be able to explain what exactly you would do with your remainder. So for instance, if it asks you to, if you're going to ignore it, report it as a fraction, or round the answer up, how would you explain it? Why? Well, I would ignore the remainder because she didn't have enough money to buy the notebook. Or I would say that I would need to add that I needed to round up because I had an extra page in my notebook in order to fit all the photos. Those would be ways that you would be able to explain why you did what you did with the remainder. So you will work on page 209, 210, and 211 in your math journal. 211 focuses on growing patterns. So do your best work, find the strategy that works best for you. And we look forward to seeing all your hard mathematical thinking and explanations.